welcome back everyone, it's me again, Matsmas, and thank you so much for joining me on today's video. We are discussing the Russian aviation wing today, and it is the MiG-29 fighter jet in particular. Now, I've had a strong fascination for this fighter jet as a very young age. First of all, because it looks absolutely beautiful. Its structure and the way it's set out is just a stunning looking fighter jet. But more so because when I was young, in 1995, they released the James Bond movie GoldenEye, and 3 of these beautiful fighter jets are actually featured in this movie, sadly to their demise in taking over the, GoldenEye facility, which was basically totally annihilated by an electromagnetic pulse. 3 of these fighter jets were scrambled to go have a look at it, and unfortunately they were also destroyed, which was actually, back in the day, a really good movie, my favourite James Bond movie, by the way. And ever since that day, when I saw those 3 fighter jets, they were always locked into the back of my mind as that being the staple fighter jet of the Russian Air Force. And I was just like, wow, that is a cool looking fighter jet. It looks like something that could take on, you know, the F-16s, F-18s, F-15s that were in other movies that I'd seen in that sort of time era as well. So the MiG-29 to me has quite a personal attachment in terms of very fascinating fighter jet. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a good overview of this fighter jet today, give you some specifications, its history, as I always do. Just to give you a reminder that I am not a subject matter expert. I do not know everything about this fighter jet, and if I do make mistakes, I do apologize. Please correct me in the comments section below. I must admit, aviation isn't exactly my strongest suit when it comes to knowing things about them. I try to look for the best sources about these kinds of aircraft, but if I do make mistakes, like I said, just correct me. Now, before I go any further, I just want to mention something that is really interesting if you have a strong passion for being involved in the aviation world, especially if you like gaming. Now, I know many of you have probably played or heard of DCS, which is basically an aviation simulation software game, and I myself actually have wanted to get into it. Unfortunately, I don't have the time, but if you have the interest in getting into this platform, I would strongly suggest you take a look at the packages that are out there. There's a multitude of different simulation aircraft that you can play, and in particular for today, I'm going to showcase you the MiG-29, and this game was actually produced by Eagle Dynamics. I'm going to show you the trailer because I think it's absolutely amazing, so that you guys in the future can potentially have a go at playing this fighter jet in a true, realistic aviation combat simulator. Let's take a look. So there you have it, guys, DCS World. If you do have an interest in training and learning how the MiG-29 works or any kind of other fighter jets that are out there, I would strongly suggest you go check out DCS World. It's definitely a place to go. So we are going to talk today about the MiG-29 and its full overview. So let's get straight into it. Comparisons between the MiG-29, initially allocated the internal OKB designation of 9-12, and the American General Dynamics F-16s are perhaps the inevitable, since both fulfill the same tactile fighter role. Both are extremely agile, high-performance aircraft, optimized for dogfighting. Both have been widely exported, and both were designed to meet the requirements for a lightweight fighter. The MiG-29, which is recognised today, was derived from a study for a heavier fighter, designed to counter the F-15 under the prospective frontal fighter competition. The Mikoyan OKB proposed the following to the US examples, with both a heavy and light fighter complementing each other to meet this requirement. Its arguments were accepted, and the requirement was redrafted to cover two quite separate aircraft. The new Soviet Air Force's requirement for the lightweight frontline fighter was issued in 1972, and Mikoyan successfully submitted a smaller version of the original design, the MiG-29D, or double. The new Soviet Air Force LFI requirement detailed a replacement for the frontal aviation's MiG-21s, MiG-23s, Su-7s and Su-17s. The new fighter was to be capable of destroying enemy fighters in air combat, destroying enemy bombers and reconnaissance aircraft, including escorting friendly bombers and attack aircraft in their duties. The aircraft would have to have an important secondary ground attack role. A production order was placed at the same time as the technical assignment was issued, meaning that the MiG-29 never received an in-house designation. The increasing importance of low-level penetration by attack aircraft made the look-down, look-shoot capability very vital, while the growing importance of ECM made the capacity for independent action very important. The aircraft was from the start designed to be able to beat the generations of US fighters, F-14, F-15, F-16, and the YF-17 in air combat, and to restore the tarnished reputation of Soviet fighters incurred by heavy losses in the Middle East. Finally, a measure of rough field dispersed sight capability was also felt to be essential. Detailed design work began in 1974, the year that the beautiful F-15 entered service and that the YF-16 first flew. The MiG-29's configuration is significantly similar to those of the F-14, F-15 and Su-27. It is different in many important ways though, although common problems make some common solutions inevitable. Starting with a blended high-lift, low-drag wing and forebody, Mikoyan added two twin-canted fins, widely flared wing leading edge root extensions and widely spaced twin engines with carefully tailored intakes to maximize high angle of attack capability. The original MiG-29 had broadly similar but fared with the MiG-25 type cockpit and the MiG-25 type engine intakes on each side of the conventional fuselage with no inter-engine tunnel. While some have criticized the MiG-29 for its supposedly crude finish in places, there can be absolutely no doubt that its aerodynamic design is extremely advanced for its time. The aircraft had unmatched low speed and high alpha handling characteristics, which can be invaluable in a close-in engagement. Interestingly enough, the electromechanical flight control system has no hard limits, allowing the pilot to briefly override the pitch and G limiters when tactically necessary, by deliberately pulling through a stick stop to enter that area of flight envelope where departure becomes progressively more likely. Ample aerodynamic warning is given before the aircraft departs. When it does, the MiG-29 is reluctant to spin and recovers when pro-spin controls are released. Sophisticated aileron rudder interconnects actually gradually release out aileron and increasing angles of attack as adjusted. Flying controls are mainly quite conventional though, and are hydraulically controlled. Computer control of the full span of maneuver flaps occupy the wing leading edges, with plane flaps inboard and ailerons outboard on the trailing edge. The horizontal tail surfaces are all moving. To allow the aircraft to operate from a primitive forward airfields, the low-mounted intakes are fitted with large doors that close on startup and open only after the aircraft has rotated on takeoff. They then close again when the main wheels of the aircraft touch on landing. These prevent the ingestion of mud and other debris, including, of course being in Russia, snow. While the main intakes are closed, air is drawn in through spring-loaded louvers on top of the wing roots. Flight is possible at speeds up to 800 km an hour or 500 miles per hour with the main intakes closed, which therefore means it's not even getting a majority of its airflow, it can still cruise at incredible speeds. The MiG-29 broke much new ground for Mikoyan, with advanced aerodynamics, avionics systems, and even materials. The new aircraft made extensive use of advanced lightweight aluminum or aluminium lithium alloys, which can be allowed for fewer fasteners and bolts to be used, with savings in weight and production complexity. The operational life of the MiG-29 airframe, however, is believed to be significantly shorter than equivalents of the Western aircraft types. The MiG-29 is powered by a pair of Sarygdov Izotov RD-33 afterburning turbofan engines. These produce considerable more augmented thrust than Western equivalents, but slightly less in dry power. This can make the aircraft more reliant on using afterburn in some circumstances, increasing its fuel consumption. The latest versions of the engine have full authority digital engine control systems and sophisticated stall prevention relight systems. It is believed that the aircraft only has to have around 350 hours between overhauls. There were 11 prototypes of the aircraft made, from 9-01 to 9-11, and they were built with the first two initially flying on 6th of October 1977. Two of them were lost in engine-related accidents, unfortunately, and they were also spotted by US satellites in November 1977. The aircraft was allocated the provisional reporting name of RAM-L. The prototypes that followed by 8 pre-production aircrafts to 9-12 and 9-19. The frontal aviation evaluation commenced in 1983 and the aircraft began to enter service soon afterwards, initially with the Kubinka and Ross regiments. Earlier reliability problems were soon solved and the MTBF figures rose from 2.3 hours to 5.7 hours by 1988, while mission-capable rates rose from 65% to 90% over the same period. The bold, quote, MiG-29 designation covers the most single-seater fighters delivered so far through history. Although a host of improvements have been incorporated, some of them have given the aircraft the distinctive appearance which might have been expected to lead the allocation of some service designations as the Fulcrum-C. Some ventral fins initially fitted to the prototype after its first flight were deleted after a small batch of production aircraft, probably about 100, had been completed, and at the same time the overwing chaff flare dispensers were fitted in the extensions of the tail fin on the leading edges. Extended rudders and pilot-mounted vortex generators were also adopted in the late 1980s and were retrofitted to all service aircraft, including some of the earlier standard ventral fin machines which remained in use even until 1994. In the fighter role, the MiG-29 carries 6 underwing missiles, with 2 BVR R-27R AKU-470 Alpha 10 Alamo Alphas in the inboard, usually both semi-active radar homing, but sometimes with 1 IR homing Alamo B. And there are also 4 R-60 Alpha 8 AFIDs, or Alpha 11 Archers, short-range IR homing AAMs on the outboard. These are backed up by an internal lightweight GSH 301 single-barrel 30mm cannon, which replaced by a twin-barrel weapon system on the first prototype. The fire control system is quite sophisticated for its time, with data gathered from the aircraft sensors being data linked to a ground station or AWACS aircraft. The radar is extremely powerful and can easily overwhelm the pilot with information. The filtering and software techniques are quite inadequate for the initial release of this aircraft for onboard threat prioritization. The need to keep contact with external agency limits on the MiG-29's pilot capabilities really defied his independent action as a fighter pilot due to the amount of inflexibility that he had in the cockpit with so much data being given to him. The MiG-29 has 2 sensors for target acquisition. The first is the N019 pulse Doppler radar, which has been previously misidentified as the HO93 or the HO193 and the NO193. Confusion actually arises because the Cyrillic letter H is in fact an English N, and the 3 is an E for echo, for export, and because in a Farnborough demonstrator a hyphen was misplaced. The radar is known to NATO as the slot back. A measure of passive target acquisition capabilities is afforded by an IRST, which has collimated laser rangefinders inside of it. This can be used to detect, track, and engage a target while leaving the radar in a passive, non-emitting mode, ready to be turned on if contact is lost, or if the target goes into a cloud, for instance, or to fire a semi-active radar homing missile. All the while, the target's aircraft RWR will not detect the MiG-29's unwelcome attentions. For close-in engagements, a helmet-mounted sight, which works by sensing the pilot's head position, can be used to cue an IR homing missile onto an off-bore sighted target. This is extremely useful in conjunction with the very agile R-73 AA-11 Archer AAM, although firing at an angle well off the nose dramatically reduces the missile's range. Primarily designed for fight-to-air superiority duties, the MiG-29 nonetheless has the important secondary ground attack role. It is therefore able to carry a variety of bombs and rockets and missiles on the inboard and under the central underwing pylons, although the outboard pylons are believed to be reserved for the carriage of the R-60 Alpha 8 AFID or R-73 IR homing AAMs. Many frontal aviation MiG-29 regiments are believed to be incorporating of nuclear strike squadrons whose aircraft can carry a single 30 kiloton RN-40 nuclear bomb in the port inboard pylon. A handful of MiG-29 regiments have even been assigned primary air-to-ground role, including at least one of the units now under the Ukrainian command. About 450 Fulcrums are estimated to be in service with the VVS, more than 300 were in service with the Soviet Air Forces in Eastern Germany alone during 1990, with 50 more in the AVMF service, and many other countries have been using these throughout, and different exports around the world. An estimated 380 have been delivered to export customers in total production, including UBs and the Fulcrum-Cs. Probably stands nowadays at about 1,200 to 1,300 different types of variations this aircraft exported. Due to its performance and handling characteristics, the MiG-29 clearly needed a 2-seat conversion trainer variant. The extra weight of the second cockpit and the reduction of the internal fuel tankage made it operationally limited, so the N01 radar was actually deleted. Instead, the MiG-29 UB, designated 9-51 trainer, was a sophisticated weapon system and emergency simulator, allowing the instructor to actually generate appropriate HUD and radar scope symbology in the front cockpit. Later models of this aircraft allocated the new reporting name of the Fulcrum-C for aircraft fitted with a bulge and extended spine, which reportedly housed both fuel and avionics, and which may also be applied through retrofitting. The internal fuel was increased by provision of a larger No. 1 fuel tank, though different sources disagree to the size of this increase, whether it be 75, 130, 175 or 240 litres. Soviet sources suggest that the Fulcrum-C is still simply designated the MiG-29, although the nickname Gorbatov or Hunchback is normally used. Many Western analysts initially attribute the MiG-29M or 915, designated the big-spined MiG-29 fighter known as the Fulcrum-C, but in fact, although similar, the MiG-29 does not incorporate a similar large fuselage spine, and the designation is applied to a completely new multi-role Fulcrum variant that incorporates a quadruplex analog FBW control system and a modernized cockpit with 2 CRT displays. There is a heavier analog system and selected in preference to a digital system for simplicity and to provide greater protection from electromagnetic damage. There is also the MiG-29K. Because it shares so many features and systems with the MiG-29M, the development program of the MiG-29K has been achieved using only 2 prototypes, although a handful of early Fulcrum A's, including some with the ventral fins, had received arrestor hooks and carrier landing systems for trials, and for training naval pilots on naval airfields at Saki in the Crimea. Designated the MiG-29 KVP, these aircraft lacked the folding wings and did not have the MiG-29K's fully strengthened undercarriage, so it could not routinely operate from a carrier where a pitching deck can dramatically increase landing loads. As much as we like to think that the MiG-29 is primarily a fighter, it has a very significant capability in being a bomber as well. In the fighter-bomber role, the MiG-29s have been seen carrying the B-8W 20-round 80mm rocket pods and the older UV-3257 32-round 57mm rocket pods on the inbound or inboard center underwing pylons. The S-24 240mm rocket can be carried singly on each of the same pylons. The MiG-29 is believed to be compatible with the B-13 5-round 130mm rocket pods, although use of this pod has really not been very much confirmed in modern day capabilities. In terms of bombs that this thing can carry, just about everything. It has the capability to lift some heavy ordnance. If you want to put a bomb on it to drop, it has that capability to do so. In terms of its weight, operating empty it weighs about 10,900 kilograms or 24,030 pounds, and its normal takeoff weight is around 15,000 kilograms or 33,000 pounds. In terms of its speed, maximum level speed clean at 11,000 meters is 2,445 kilometers an hour or 1,519 miles per hour, or at sea level at 1,500 kilometers an hour or 932 miles per hour. In terms of the aircraft's range, it can range up to normal internal fuel ranges of 1,500 kilometers or 932 miles. With 3 additional fuel tanks, it can range up to 2,100 kilometers or 1,305 miles. Overall, it's safe to say that the MiG-29 is here to stay for the foreseeable future. Although aged and dated, it still works extremely well for the needs of many air forces around the world. A beautiful fighter overall, with many capabilities both air and ground, it's safe to say that the MiG-29 is a formidable fighter jet of the modern and olden days. So folks, I hope you enjoyed looking at the MiG-29 and got a bit of a broad overview as to what it's capable of and what it's been through in its history. I have to say that I really do have a strong respect for the aircraft, mainly for the fact that it just looks absolutely gorgeous. the curves, its shape, those big old engines, huge old intakes. It just looks absolutely gorgeous, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on that one. Folks, if you did enjoy today's video, I would kindly ask that you hit that little like button for a start, leave me a comment, and if you do enjoy the content that I'm bringing to you, hit the little subscribe button and the bell button by it so you can be notified of any upcoming videos in the future. I do have a Patreon if you wish to support my channel. Click on the link in the description box below, and I also have a PO box. If you want to send me anything, some of you have been sending me some really nice packages lately that I promise I will get round to opening. You're more than welcome to check out the description box also where that address is for that PO box if you wish to send me anything that I can put up on my board for next time we do live streams and all that sort of good stuff. Also, if you have any suggestions for new military equipment that you wish me to look at and discuss, make sure you put it in the comments section also. I am on Facebook. I also have Discord, so if you want to just come chat and hang out, come to my Discord server. Again, the link is in the description box below. We play video games, we talk about military equipment, and all sorts of other good stuff. Folks, I really appreciate you being on today's video and looking at this gorgeous fighter jet. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.